Hello guys, hope you're all doing well. Today we are taking a look at all of the medic class weapons in Battlefield 5. We'll discuss their strengths, weaknesses, and what spec tree I've decided to go for on each gun. A lot of people have already written the medic guns off as terrible, but I think some of them are actually quite good when used in the right situations. Others, not so much. But you'll be surprised, I think. Now there is one less medic weapon in this class than on the assault class, 7 compared to 8, and one thing we should probably bear in mind is that unlike with assault having quite a lot of variation, a lot of the medic weapons are pretty similar in how they operate and how I tend to spec them personally. So let's get started with the first weapon available, the Sten. Just like with the Sturmgewehr for assault, the Sten comes already specced out, but I've changed mine a little bit, although we will get onto that in a second. Because this gun is already fully specced, it means that it's already a decent weapon to start with. The main benefit of the SMGs for the medic class are their maneuverability and their hipfire. As such, you've got to play to their strengths, and you can hipfire quite a lot with most of the weapons, the Sten included. Aimed fire is pretty solid too, and with a 540 rate of fire, it's not as fast as say the Tommy gun, but it's not painfully slow either. You can drill people at range if you get a few good shots to the head with this thing. When it comes to specializations, I've gone fully right hand side, and this is a common theme with how you're going to notice my SMG setups. Much like with the assault weapons, the left hand tree tends to mostly be hipfire related specializations, and the right hand side is more aimed accuracy and movement benefits. And because the hipfire is already pretty good, I tend to go for the extra movement when aiming, improved aim down the sight speed, and better accuracy while aimed, because for the most part, it's the range and aimed accuracy that will let the SMG down. So you've got to compensate for that. You could, however, go for extra hipfire if that's what you wanted to do, and I have done that with some of these guns. And one of those guns is the Suomi KP 31, one of my favourites. This little gem is an interesting one, mainly because there are quite a few ways that you can set this one up to operate differently. It's a very situational gun though, but if you use it well, you can rip people up with this thing. Do not discount it. By standard, it only has a 20 round capacity, and that soon goes fast, especially when you're fighting multiple enemies. That being said, there is a extended mag specialization that you can go for. The default rounds per minute on this gun is already really fast at 770, so as you can imagine, 20 rounds at 770 RPM, it's going to decimate up close, but its aimed accuracy and its bullet capacity make it tricky to use if you don't hit your target or waste bullets. The recoil on this thing can be pretty nutty too. What's more is that you can actually increase its rate of fire in these specializations as well. We'll get onto that in a second. I love using the Suomi in and around the E flag on Arus. Anything really close range on a map like Devastation as well, and this gun can shine, especially when it comes to hipfire, the way that I've got it set up. So let's take a look then. What about those specs? Well, I've gone for a different route with this gun. I started with the improved aim down the sight speed in the right hand tree, and then I moved over to the left purely to get a faster rate of fire. Now if you wanted to, you could easily stay on the right and get the extra magazine size, because that increases the ammo count all the way up to 50. Yes, 50, which is absolutely huge. That's what makes this weapon interesting. You either turn it into a really fast rate of fire hipfire monster, or you trade that for 50 bullets and more aimed fire accuracy. Really, it's up to you. The Suomi is one of my top weapons in the medic class though. Next up is the MP40. It's just so iconic as a World War II gun more than anything. It's got pretty much the same rate of fire and general stats as the Sten, and yet it feels nicer to use to me. Hipfire is really good on this gun as well, so you're definitely going to want to utilise that as much as possible. A good map for that is Aerodrome, lots of close range action where you can really use that hipfire benefit, but don't shy away from using the aimed fire, because you can definitely pick off some enemies at a distance with some well placed shots and tap fire. Just please don't expect to be outgunning assault rifles regularly at range, and play smart. You'll never guess though what specialisation tree I went for on the MP40. Yep, all right hand side again. So improved aim down the sight accuracy, as well as less horizontal recoil, which is a real help when it comes to this gun, because it's the horizontal recoil that causes the biggest issues when you're aiming at medium ranges. Lastly, improved accuracy in aimed fire while moving and stationary. If you want that better hip fire though, you could easily move over to the left hand tree for those specs and then back over to the right. Now moving on to my favourite weapon in the medic class, the MP28. Before we get started with this weapon though, let's talk about the weapon animation, or specifically the way that the soldier holds the gun. I've seen a lot of people question this, and I can't honestly say if any soldiers would have held the gun like that, because to me it seems really weird and unlikely at first glance. I can't imagine that it would be any better for recoil control, but I have to assume that DICE have done a bit of research on this and there's a reason that it's like that. Or maybe they're just trying to make this weapon a bit more unique than say the MP18 from BF1. Who knows? Either way, it looks a bit different, a bit weird, and I think because of that some people aren't keen on it. But when it comes to this weapon, the stats, I absolutely love it. It's a great combination of solid aimed fire at close to medium range and good hip fire, and that means that you can really rack up the kills with this gun in close range areas. Arras is another good one if you stick to the E and the B flags, as that town area is perfect for this gun. Aerodrome is another good one too. I won't focus too much on the spec tree because it's the same as the MP40. Full right hand column, improved ADS speed, less horizontal recoil, improved accuracy in aimed fire when moving, as well as 60% faster movement when aiming. That particular combination just works really well with this gun in my opinion. Being able to aim down the sight and move faster works a treat, and you could choose to go down the hipfire route and give yourself a large mag if you wanted to, but I'm not really sure that you need it with this gun. The MP28 is a monster gun in the medic class. Moving on, we come to the EMP. Honestly, I can't really decide if I like this gun as much as some of the others. I do enjoy using it, but for the most part, I probably prefer the MP40 or the MP28. It's very similar to the Sten in a lot of ways, although it fires a bit slower than the MP28 that we were just looking at. Weirdly enough though, the stats indicate that it should be better than the MP28, especially with the way that I have them both spec'd, but in practice, it doesn't really feel like it. Hipfire is good on it though, like with most of the SMGs, so if you're around the cathedral on Devastation, you can move pretty fast while hipfiring to either get a kill or get yourself out of trouble. And just to change things up, I haven't fully spec'd this one to the right, well almost, but not quite. I've kept the improved aim down the sight speed, improved accuracy while moving, and 60% faster movement when aiming, but then I've split across to the left hand side for less vertical recoil. I don't really need less vertical recoil, but I'm also not really ever stationary with this gun, and that's what the last right hand perk was, so I decided to utilise a different specialisation here instead. Okay, now onto the MP34. For some reason I've kept with iron sights on this gun. I'm not sure why, I just kind of like them. No real benefit to it though. This gun is deceptively accurate in aimed fire if you place your shots well and micro burst. A lot of times with the SMGs it can feel like you aren't really doing much damage at medium range, but you can definitely make this weapon work for you if you take your time and place your shots. You'll notice though that unlike with the MP28, the soldier's hand is in a much more traditional position, let's say, on the gun, which makes me think that the hand placement on the MP28 isn't all that beneficial. Who knows? Either way, with the MP34 I felt I had perhaps a bit more range than with the other SMGs, besides perhaps the MP40, which is also pretty good at medium range. So the spec tree for this one is mostly the same as well, but there are some curveballs thrown in there to test us this time around. The first spec on the right hand side gives you increased bullet speed at range. And I tried it out, it's pretty nice, I like it. For the most part though, I'm not sure it's really needed for the ranges that you're going to be using this gun at, so I opted for the left hand side top spec instead, which gives you improved aim down the sight speed. And then we've got some usual suspects with better horizontal recoil, extended mag, and improved accuracy in aimed fire when stationary. I was tempted here by the rate of fire improvement, but it's quite a small improvement, so I decided against it. Also, another bayonet. No thanks. Last but not least then, the Tommy gun, the Thompson, or its full name in BF5, the M1928A1. Can we just call it the Tommy gun? No, I think we can. This is actually the only other gun that I use the iron sights on, but for an entirely different reason. I just can't bring myself to put an optical sight on it because it just doesn't look right to me. I need the Tommy gun to look like a Tommy gun, so it has to remain at least relatively stock, apart from the green paint of course. This gun is a fast firing hip fire delight, and that's exactly how I like to use it. You can aim down the sight with it, and I do that a reasonable amount, but until you're used to it you can easily lose track of enemies when aiming, so you might just want to stick to hip fire, and it does that incredibly well though. I've spec'd this gun so that the hip fire is almost maxed out, and you can tell when you use it. Interestingly, I tried it out on Hamada Frontlines, which I know isn't really a close range map, but there are a few close range engagements that you can have, so it worked out okay actually. Amazingly, I also didn't go fully right with my spec tree, instead opting for a bit of a mix-up. I started normally on the right hand side with the improved aim down the sight speed, but then I went left for better hip fire accuracy and improved firing rate. Lastly, back across to the right for another hip fire bonus. And this means that if I am hip firing with this weapon, it's impressively accurate. And the bonus to the firing rate means that if you land those shots on enemies, they just drop in a second. It's a very satisfying weapon to use, as you can imagine, from a Tommy gun. It's not my favourite in the medic class, but for hip fire it can work out okay. So there we have it, guys. That's all of the medic weapons in the game at launch. Overall, there are some really fun weapons in this class, although they do lack a bit of variation, especially when compared to some of the assault guns. Of course, the way that I've spec'd by now is really for my own personal playstyle, so I'd recommend you try out a few different trees and see what works well for you. And that's all for today, folks. I hope you enjoyed this guide. If you did, leave a like and perhaps a share, a comment down below. That would be appreciated. Thank you. If you didn't like it, dislike it. Subscribe if you want to see more, and I'll see you in the next one.